Good day, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 87. Okay, we went with that one. And get that one. As always, I'm going to start us off with a bit of a tune.
I come from the land of the mountain and glens to march along with the Cameron men. Went out for a walk one bright summer's day. I met a bonny lassie, she was coming my way. Says I, will you walk with a Cameron lad? She looked at me shyly and then took my hand. She fell for me tarp and me sporran and plaid. And softly she sang to her Cameron lad. Oh, you're better handsome and you're brave and you're braw. We're bully beef tartar and you're sworn and all. You're the pride and the toast of the lasses in the glen. As proudly you march with the Cameron men. Says I, will you walk with a Cameron lad? She looked at me shyly and then took my hand. She fell for me tarp and me sporran and plaid. And softly she sang to her Cameron lad. Oh, you're better handsome and you're brave and you're braw. We're bully beef tartar and you're sporran and all. You're the pride and the toast of the lasses in the glen. As proudly ye march with the Cameron men.
Okay, that was the Cameron Lads, which is a traditional Scottish folk song. Forgive me. Okay, welcome to my guests. How are you going, Mitch? How are you going, Adam?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Adam, how are you going, man? Hang on, he might be getting himself a drink or something. All right, I'll start off with you. Oh, how are you today, Adam?
Yeah, good.
Excellent. I'm going to start us off with Mitch. Mitch, you got a first subject you'd like to bring us up with? Start us off with.
Aside from the usual doom and gloom about becoming energy crisis and usual blackpilling about this Tory election, apparently, because everyone's talking about it for whatever reason.
Yeah, I pretty much lost all interest in that when it became Truss versus Sunak. I mean, I suppose Truss is slightly better than Sunak because at least she's actually British, but it's about as far as the enthusiasm I can muster, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, better's a strong word, even for that metric.
Yeah. It's not just that. I mean, there's no point asking me about domestic politics because I mean, I often use the Ukraine war just as a means of escapism from my own train wreck that is British politics.
Well, the Ukraine war and Britain is going to come into a severe collision this coming winter, if I'm any judge. So,
yeah, that's.
I'm getting really bored of British politicians and Ukrainian politicians and European politicians saying that it's all right for little old ladies in Northern Europe to die this winter because of Ukraine. I'm really getting bored with that, I have to say.
How do you think we live? How do you think we feel? We live it.
Yeah. No, oh, look, it's the only difference of where I am is it's going to be summer.
Yeah.
But come next winter, we're going to be in a similar position. It's not going to make that much difference. And of course, our winters are not as harsh as the British ones, and the British ones are nowhere near as harsh as the German winters, etc.
No.
So,
well, some parts get hit pretty bad. If you're looking at Inverness and the surrounding area, which just turns into a tundra in the winter.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, God bless it. I love it up there, but
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I'm a big fan of Scotland, but I like a lot of Scottish people as well. But I think hopefully a lot of those guys will have like solid fuel stoves and stuff, so they can burn peat and what have you. I mean, I don't know, but I hope so.
Mm.
I mean, when I used to go up there, you used to see people digging peat up in the islands and what have you.
Yeah, my big hope is that we get a couple of heavy storms before the winter, and then I can go around, early hours in the morning with my chainsaw and cut up some firewood.
Yeah. I mean, look, I said on the Discord a few weeks ago now that I think people would be most wise to get some sort of solid fuel stove for this coming winter, as well as other methods of heating, of cooking and lighting. So yeah, I definitely think that would be a wise move for anyone in the UK, because if there are not power cuts this winter, I will be most surprised.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Liz Truss turned around and said she was ruling out fuel energy rationing, but I don't see how she can do that just yet.
She can't. She's just playing electioneering, if you ask me. Like, she still needs those Conservative voters to vote for her. Those Conservative members, I beg your pardon, to vote for her. And I suspect that's what's going on in that one.
Yeah, I mean, as for news this week on my end, I mean, I could spurg a bit about Poland getting a lot of the LGBT stuff propping up a lot more.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw some of the stuff you posted, and apparently it's spreading out from Warsaw and some cities which were already fairly globo-homo.
Yeah, I think at this point, like, the only cities I'm aware of that aren't really globo-homophobe yet are the two eastern cities of Bialystok and Sandomierz, if I'm pronouncing those correctly, because very well right-wing. You got cities like Krakow and Warsaw and Gdansk in the west that are more globo-homophobe, more pro-Western.
Yeah.
And the LGBT stuff, it's become a lot more of a thing in Wrocław in Silesia, as well as other cities like Lublin, which is not far from Warsaw, and Katowice, which is a city not far from where a certain German death camp was. But
Yeah.
So I can't remember precise geographic locations, something like southwest, I think. But yeah, and it seems to me the LGBT stuff is branching out at this point. Like, I'd say at this point, there's pride parades happening. Like, yeah, as I said, all in but two cities of Poland at this point.
Well, at least they're probably not going to go as far as Britain has when you get armed forces contingents going to some of them. So, which sickened me, quite frankly. But I don't think that's got anything to do with the armed forces and the defence of Great Britain. And if individuals want to go, let them go in civilian clothes. But the idea of uniformed contingents going there is to me complete anathema.
Yeah, so I mean, I've heard apparently a few years back, because I'm hearing this off a Polish Connection channel follow, because you have American soldiers stationed in Poland, and the Polish at first they said, okay, look, we'll have American soldiers here, but we won't have the black ones here. And then a few years ago, the Law and Justice Party just said, okay, screw it, we'll have the black ones as well. They cooked, as they usually do. I mean, that's Law and Justice for you.
This is in Poland, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I find the Polish government's liking for Ukraine extremely strange, given how very anti-Pole people like Bandera were,
Well, I mean,
to put it mildly.
Well, the Polish government are very married to this idea of intermarrying. So to that end, they'll stomach all the Ukrainian stuff if it means that Poland gets its own sphere of influence within Ukraine. That's why, for example...
I don't think there's going to be much of Ukraine left by the time the Russians are finished with it, but I mean, that's just me.
Yeah, Yeah, it's not even just that. I mean, so you get Polish nationalists, and I'm talking like the likes of like Visegrad 24. They'll say, "Oh well, because of this whole thing, America is actually favouring the Polish a lot more." I'm thinking, okay, I mean, in the case of Ukraine, you take a look at who they want to have funding their, rebuilding. Let's say hypothetically, they pick the Germans and the Brits. They don't pick the Polish at all. Not even the Polish construction companies. And in fact, the Polish, they're just getting the short end of the deal as well because cheap Ukrainian grain is flooding the Polish market, and the Polish farmers are getting undercut.
Yeah, I can believe that. Captain Smith in the chat says, I could be completely wrong, but my understanding is that the issue in UK is the cost of fuel rather than running out for now. Heard we don't get our gas from Russia. Well, I'll tell you what, Captain Smith, what I understand is that Britain has almost no storage capacity. We have quite a lot of liquefied natural gas port facilities. We do have those, and they're all being used to madly send stuff to Europe at the moment. And from what I have been reading, the British government's hope is that come the winter, because we've been so generous in sending all this stuff to the EU, which we supposedly left, of course, after the Brexit vote, the EU will send us gas in the winter. And I reckon that is a vain hope, frankly. But that's just my own opinion.
I think we also get we don't get much gas from them. Don't we get 10% of our diesel from Russia as well, though?
I think so. Yeah, there is some stuff that we get from there, and it's not just that; it's other resources that we do get from Russia.
I saw someone that AA was arguing with on Twitter, who is historically a bit of a moron, and they were crying back and forward about gas usage, and the thing came up about construction tools or something. But I think 6% of lorries in the UK run on propane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically all the forklift trucks. It's going to be 80-90% of all the forklift trucks.
Oh yeah. Even back when I used to drive forklifts, that was the case. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but even if it's 5% of your freight infrastructure runs on a commodity, and that commodity goes up, it's going to impact the rest of the market. But we're not just looking at it going up a little bit. They're talking about a 700+% hike over the next X period of time. It's pretty substantial. It's going to have a pretty big knock-on effect.
Yeah, these increases are not something that is just going to be a bit hard. These are just unpayable for a lot of people on fixed incomes.
Yeah, and I mean, George said, George, you got it on screen. Yeah, small businesses. I mean, there was a story about I can't remember the specifics. Was it a bakery? Hang on, let me have a look. I've got it here. It was a cafe in Leicester, where their electricity had gone from 10,000 a year to 55,000 a year. And it's like our high streets are basically only just recovered from 2008. They were only sort of 4 years into from recovery.
Then the China virus. And now this
got decimated by that, and the last vestiges of it left. And now, obviously, because of this show that we will not name that's recently come out, I've been talking to normie friends of mine about Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, and he said that two of them told me that they'd gone on a road trip to Oxford to go to Tolkien's old pub, and then they got there and it was closed. I had to tell them. No. I had to tell them that it had been closed down. It had gone out of business in the lockdowns.
Jeez.
And it's just so much of our smaller end of our industry. The shopkeepers, the thing that literally makes
the kulaks
that made Britain. Yeah, basically.
The people who have a little bit of independence from the system because they have a small business or maybe a medium-sized business, it's those guys who are being targeted, in my opinion. But,
yes, by just manufactured crisis after manufactured crisis, and it is a manufactured crisis at the end of the day. they could ignore so many wars on their doorstep. You
Yeah,
know, and this one
look,
on the other side of the continent is suddenly such a big deal to them.
Adam, as I've said from the very beginning of this stuff, the Ukraine is not a vital British interest. It does not matter to the British government who runs Ukraine. It's just not. And all of that money we are wasting there is just money down the drain. And we have the National Health Service if we really want to take money down the drain, you know.
Yeah,
It's it's just appalling to me. It really is. People have said to me, I'm a Putin shill and all the rest of it. No, I'm not. I don't care who runs Ukraine. And the areas in dispute in Ukraine, and of course Mitch knows much more about this than I do because he speaks Russian. But the areas in dispute in Ukraine are mostly majority Russian.
Yeah. I mean, especially going to get called a Putin shield tonight after my profile pic this night.
The thing is, I mean, like I'm kind of on the opposite end. I almost hope that prick loses, but at the same time, like a few weeks ago we were talking about this, or maybe a month ago, and you said like the enemy of my enemies, and I was like, yeah, I've never really been okay with that phrase, but I am so fucking close to embracing it full hog at this point.
Well, almost everyone I dislike to despise, that's the kind of, you know, the trajectory. The people I dislike to the people I despise are all pro-Ukraine.
Yeah.
And
funny how that happens, isn't it? Like every time.
It tends to like you know, people like AA go on about friend-enemy distinction, and I think there is some truth about that.
I mean, I'd say that the friend-enemy distinction is more complicated than that, but yeah, basically.
Yeah, but when everybody you dislike is pro-Ukraine, it kind of makes me think, well, why would I support something that all of my enemies hate, all of my enemies love? I beg your pardon. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, especially when you look at what Reddit says about the war in Ukraine, and it's just, but I mean, pretty much on the phase of, oh yeah, let's call for war crimes against the Russians. Which,
well, if you're going to do that, then the Ukrainians are going to face some too.
It's only just that. I mean, the Reddit, like, you remember the Reddit battalion back in March? Who got missile strikes in their barracks because I mean, they all buggered off back home after that. It's pretty much. So, I mean, on one hand, I don't really take what Reddit says with much seriousness, but then again, I just look on there every now and then just to see the salt, just to see how much salt can be mined off them just seeing a country which they have no emotional attachment to, but for some reason they shill for it, just by not knowing the language or anything about it, get absolutely screwed over by another country which they don't know anything about, other than it's on the opposite side of global homo. Yeah,
no, I totally agree with you. Like I said, I don't give two monkeys who runs Ukraine. It doesn't matter, Britain, who runs Ukraine. And if the Ukrainians had any brain whatsoever, they would have negotiated months ago and probably lost, and certainly have lost those Donbass bits and the Crimea, which they actually lost donkeys years ago anyway. And they would have kept the rest of the country, but they weren't willing to do that, partly because the West wanted to pour money and weapons in there and basically fund another forever war, which we're so keen on in the West for some reason. You know, I mean, if I was a Ukrainian, I'd be saying, well, yeah, the West is willing to fight to the last Ukrainian, you know? It's just nonsense.
Yeah, so, I mean, you take me. I mean, I've already detailed on stream before about how I've known Russians IRL, so I've got more of an emotional attachment to this, for want of a better way to explain it, than, say, the likes of people in the chat. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the whole Ukrainian thing, and it's just, you know, you see some of the attitudes of you people on the Ukrainian side, and you just think to yourself, why do we even bother funding these people? Like, they are very ungrateful for what we give them. Like,
I mean, they're basically saying, let all your little old grannies die this winter because we're in a war. I mean, sorry, charity begins at home as far as I'm concerned. And I'm more concerned about British little old ladies than I am Ukrainians. It might seem harsh, but it ain't really.
I mean, I'm all for helping people, but it's not. But when we're the kind of people who you give aid to, but they still act like complete ingrates, even when you give said help to them. Yeah, I'm not.
It's the most corrupt nation in Europe. It's even bloody United Nations. Globo Homo Central. The United Nations called Ukraine the most corrupt nation in Europe before the war.
Yeah, it's not just that. I mean, he's also got a year before the invasion, like the Guardian were doing articles about how Zelensky is a corrupt dictator who's locking up his political opponents. Because you had Poroshenko, who was being fitted up for treason charges, because apparently he bought some coal from the Donbass when they were when it said coal mines were under the control of the DPR. So that just says how corrupt. Yeah, you also know that Ukraine's corrupt when a guy called Mikhail Saakashvili, he was this Georgian guy, he was in charge of Odessa Oblast, gets done for corruption.
Yep. And I mean, if you get done for corruption in the most corrupt country in Europe, how many people don't get done?
Yeah, that seems like how Boris Johnson should have gone down after he got deselected by his own MPs.
You mean Alexander Johnson, the Prime Minister of the Ukraine?
Yeah.
I mean, he's certainly worried more about Ukraine than he ever has about UK. But
yes, he did. I remember, he visited a week before this offensive. That must be the fourth visit he's had in 6 months. Which, how often does that happen in international politics? Visiting the country 4 times within the space of 6 months.
Yeah, I think it's insane. Look, before we move on, Mitch, let's just I'll tell you my view in a sec. But what's your view of this long vaunted, long delayed, and seemingly disastrous Ukrainian counterattack?
I mean, the fact that all they achieved really, the most successful part of the offensive was this long, thin corridor that stretched from the river to a few villages. But the problem was, it's like a snake. It's like a snake. It's long and thin.
So they can just cut the head off it.
Yeah, the Russians have trashed their pontoon bridges, so they're now cut off, and they're just and apparently they lost 30 tanks and armored vehicles in getting that territory. Never mind how many losses they're going to get keeping the land after they've been cut off.
Yeah, all the stuff I've been watching, the Ukrainian casualties in this offensive have been enormous.
Yeah, there's this one brigade by the name of 128th Mountain Brigade, which, with the Mountain Assault Brigades, are some of those elite units you can get in the likes of the Russian and in the Soviet armies and post-Soviet armies. And the fact that this particular brigade was so badly mauled that in the Oblast where they came from, Zakarpattia, there's actually a week of mourning because the casualties were that horrendous for that particular brigade.
And they had emergency calls for blood donors at all the hospitals and all this kind of stuff, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, in Nikolaev, the hospitals had to cancel.
You would have thought they might have done that beforehand because it would be kind of obvious you'd need that, wouldn't it?
I mean, you had Zaluzhny and all the other generals who were saying to Zelensky, "Don't do it. Let's just keep what we've got and not, because the Russians prefer it when the Ukrainians attack them because they're out of their defensive positions." Yeah, it's not just that. I mean, you said the Kherson sector, it's flat steppe. There's no vegetation to cover any advance, so whoever attacks are going to suffer heavy casualties. The Russians are happy for the Ukrainians to do it because they go out their trenches into the open and just get picked off. And
the Russians have complete air superiority. They have complete artillery superiority. They have more armored vehicles. Attacking in that situation as Ukraine. I mean, I think Captain Smith in the chat here that I've just put on the screen, I think he's probably right. It's more of a PR stunt to say to the Globo Homo Western leaders, keep giving us aid, because we're attacking. Even though actually, they're attacking, but you're just getting loads and loads more men killed. You've already had enormous numbers killed.
Yeah, I saw an analysis. I mean, I haven't been following this, so I'll need you guys to say yay or nay if I'm on the money or not. But I saw a bit of an analysis that kind of made sense to me, which was where they were saying that this offensive was going to be a lose-lose for Ukraine either way, because if they actually won and took ground, Russia was going to have to escalate considerably, because they can't take that loss domestically.
No.
And on the other hand, if Ukraine loses, then that weakens them massively and allows the Russians to push harder in places like the last remaining few bits of the Donbass they still want to take as their stated land claims.
Yeah. I've heard reports apparently that the Ukrainians had to empty their garrison in Odessa to supply troops for this offensive. Which
well, that would make the Russians happy if they decide to take the place.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the horrendous casualties that the Ukrainians have suffered on this, and it's just, first of all, the Russians have now revved up their artillery in the Donbass, so it looks like they're going to step up their offensive, because the Ukrainians have blown up most of their reserves in this useless offensive, and now the Russians have just like a free hand with the initiative, and they can just attack a weakened and demoralized Ukraine.
Yeah, I don't think many people realise that Ukraine has already lost probably twice as many men as the entire British Army and the Royal Marines. The entire British Army and the Royal Marines, 2 times that amount, which is like only about 83,000 men these days, by the way. So you're not talking like enormous numbers, but they've lost twice that. Just imagine if the entire British Army plus, actually that would be the British Army plus the Royal Navy plus the Royal Air Force, completely wiped out in terms of killed and wounded and captured or missing.
Yeah, it's you're looking at this, and it was supposed to say that with because of the Ukrainian army, it's on one hand they run rather incompetently under. On one hand, it's kind of similar to like World War II with Hitler in that you have Hitler on one hand who says, "Oh well, we have to do this because we don't want, say, the Hungarians or the Italians to leave," whereas the generals say the complete opposite and say we must do the other thing because of military advantage. That's kind of what it's like. That's kind of what it's like in the Ukraine.
Do you think there's much chance of a coup in Ukraine and Zelensky like either being ousted and buggering off to one of his many mansions around the world, or getting a bullet in the back of the neck?
There's a lot of scenarios that because there's this channel on Telegram by the name of Resident UI, which means resident in Ukraine, and they pretty much say Ukraine, like they say that Zelensky is considering a way to get rid of Zelensky while keeping the loyalty of his army. So it's clear there are tensions between the army and Zelensky.
But surely, if this is the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian army, yeah?
Yeah.
If he gets rid of him, there's going to be a lot of that dude's underlings who are going to think, well, am I going to be next?
Yeah, I've also heard you remember a while back where the SBU were having a purge as well. So it looks like things aren't rosy either with the SBU either, because apparently I can't remember the name of the city, but there's an SBU chief who killed himself along with his prostitute apparently. So I don't know.
Was Biden's son somewhere in the vicinity? Oh God! As soon as you said prostitute, I just thought Biden's son. But yeah, okay.
It gets worse. The guy in charge of the Odessa garrison a few months back was found having sex with a tranny.
Wow.
Yeah, this is the same Ukraine that we're told by certain people on Twitter is actually the base nationalist PCFO in the Russo-Mongolian horde.
But don't forget, this is what we are told in Britain, we are told in Australia, we are told in the US, in Canada, in New Zealand, and all around the world, in the West. We are told that this having sex with trannies is good. We're told this constantly, all the bloody time.
I think average Russian or average Belarusian would disagree with that statement very much.
Yeah, which is one reason I'm not anti-Russian. So, because I disagree with it, and I think most ordinary, average British or Australian or American people would also disagree with it.
Yeah, it's like with Ukraine. You get cities like I don't know about Lvov, but I know in the east, like cities like Kharkov and the Donbass and the Crimea, they generally tend to be more conservative. Whereas you take Odessa. Odessa is pretty much like the Brighton of Ukraine in a nutshell, because it's got beautiful beaches, but the people there are quite should we say, very social liberal. Like they're very much like very like Londoners in terms of how social liberal they can be. I mean,
well, let's bear in mind the overwhelming majority of Londoners are not even English, so
I'm even talking about Tom Harwood types.
I don't count those people as being English either, to be honest with you. In fact, we're going to come on to that in a bit, because I would like to talk about that, because he came up with the Discord earlier about this lack of pro self-group stuff amongst European people, or European descent people, shall we say. So I would like to talk about that in a bit. But we've done half an hour on Ukraine, and this is something we talk about regularly on the stream, because it's one of the few streams that actually does talk about this, because we're lucky enough to have Mitch, who, like I say, speaks Russian, and I think can understand a good deal of Ukrainian, etc. So, like, he can keep us up to date with it, which is great. But let's change tune a bit, unless you have anything to add to what we've been talking about, Adam.
No, not from me.
All right, Adam, you went to the Witton, I believe.
Yeah, I did.
To totally change this around to something totally British. The Witton, of course, it's named after the old Anglo-Saxon governing body of England, I suppose you'd say, or Wessex anyway, under like Alfred the Great and all these lovely Anglo-Saxon chaps. Do you want to give us a kind of rundown on that one, Adam, please?
Yeah. So the theme was Logos versus Praxis. I went in there purely as a praxis-minded guy, because that's how I am. Smash and crush and conquer, and that's kind of the only way I understand these things. Came out of there completely Logos pilled. But yeah, it was good. They had quite a few people from all over. I very briefly met Chris Gard, the YouTuber. I met Ben Carson.
Hang on, Chris Gard, the Australian guy who sings and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, cool! I've given him a few plugs. I really like his channel, actually. Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I believe you also met our own Rupert August, who's been on the stream quite a few times.
Yes, I did. He was a speaker there.
Good.
He had the second to last talk, and I actually think his was very good. It went down a treat as well. Like basically the first evening, you had AA talking about the octopus, which is something he's kind of discussed before. It's kind of like his alternative to the cathedral. George says, "Is it worth 500 quid?" Yeah, I think so. I mean, I came away from it sort of more inspired than I have been in a long time. So I would say that is worth the price of admission alone. I've actually been trying to write a novel for a long time, and I've been sort of fumbling around in the dark, and sort of after walking away from that, I sort of really put pen to paper in quite a hard way just over this last week. Yeah, I met a lot of great people. I mean, that's
Adam, what would be in terms of the talks? What were your highlights?
There was one early in the morning on Saturday by a guy who was a former venture capitalist called Dan Tubbs, called "The Death of Money." I'm not entirely convinced on it completely on his economic outlays. I think there was a little bit of bad economics in there, a touch, but that was a really good talk. Really fantastic talk. And let's see some other ones. Radical Liberation, Ben Carson, his was really good.
Yeah, I like
his
him.
Was fantastic.
He seems a nice Nice dude.
Yeah, I got to meet him. He's so lovely in person. So lovely. Like
Yeah, I
considering I was a
thought he
complete
would be a
stranger
nice
to him.
chap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
considering I was a complete stranger, just like told him my name and shook his hand. And the next thing we're like walking off together to get coffee, and he's like asking me how I felt about his speech, and we start talking about like Ephesians and other scripture. It was a really fantastic time.
Do you think you made any friends there that you will keep in touch with?
Yeah. There's a few people there that I exchange details with, and we'll hopefully talk to more. And of course, I'll probably see quite a few of them at the next one because I'll definitely be going to that.
The only thing I've seen from it so far was the Woman's Hour broadcast with Poe the person and Amy and the other chick.
Birdie.
Yeah, Birdie, that's right. And Amy's pretty cute, I must say. But
well,
but
yeah, I mean, on that instance as well, the Alexander Adams talk was also very good. I picked up his new book while I was up there, actually, Artivism, which I'm really enjoying. That's a solid book. The poetry panel, which of course our Rupert was on, that was great too. That was really good. It could have actually done with being longer, I suppose, because it had 4 people on the panel. That really does make it feel a lot quicker than it actually is, a lot shorter than it actually is.
Right. Well, the last one they did, I know eventually a fair bit of it got put up online. So is that going to happen this time, do you think? Or
I don't know. They might put the poetry panel and the unpopular opinions live on the Skilding's YouTube channel. They might not actually put unpopular opinions live. It did get a bit spicy in places.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've just got to say one thing. The one thing Skildings need to do is the next time they do an event in the USA, they need to allow Don the Pleb to go rather than banning him, because that was the one thing I don't like about them, to be honest.
Is that ban still in place, I take it?
I don't know, man. I hope it's not, because it shouldn't be, because Don's good people, as far as I'm concerned.
That all seemed like a storm in a teacup, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it was caused by one person, to be honest, but and it wasn't Don. But, yeah.
I mean, I will say about the bill, it's the £500 cost. It's 400 and what is it, 450 or 475, something like that.
It's quite a lot for 2.5 days, isn't it?
It is, but it's that's hotel, that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So
you're not spent. So the only thing you're paying for is your booze, basically.
Yes, drinks, anything like that.
And did it go on till like 3 a.m, which I'm told it did last time?
Later, actually. It was. I think the first night it was 6 a.m, which I did not stay up for. In fact, I think it was closer to 7. And the next night, I think AA and Curtis Yarvin were just pulled a whole nighter.
Oh, okay. What did you think of Curtis Yarvin, by the way? Did he hum and ah a lot?
No. In fact, because I actually went back on the drive up there, I had a playlist of stuff, because it was quite a long drive for me. Had a playlist of stuff to listen to, and one of them happened to be an older Curtis Yarvin. I can't remember the guy he was talking with. It was actually someone that it was an interview God's Own Prototype shared with me, with this American guy talking to Curtis, and this is years ago, and Curtis is doing the whole in and ah in and everything else. But this time he literally went up there, no slides, went off the audience reaction, winged the whole thing, and he was an incredible speaker.
Yeah.
And of course, so you had the Alexander Adams talk, the Dan Tubbs talk. You had Radical Liberation. That was a fantastic talk. He was talking about the rise of early Christianity and what we can learn from it now, and he also tied it into some things about certain periods of decline in Roman civilization.
Mm-hmm.
That was he got a standing ovation. That was a really good talk. And of course we had our Rupert's talk. That was great. He did he went on the restoration angle. He pushed the idea of restorationism as a movement, and that was particularly good.
Could you explain that a little bit more, please, Alan?
So, trying to remember the specifics. So basically the idea is that he goes through some great examples from like Greece, from like the birth of modern Greece and a little bit before, and sort of political movements going on at the time in that region. Basically, the idea is that we need to seize on our Arthurian myth and basically build something on this idea of Arthur returning to save the Britons once more, or lead them, on their struggle.
All right.
As a sort of method of sort of nurturing and bringing out a sort of great man, as it were. I'm not sure if I'm getting this exactly right. I hope I'm not butchering his theory. There's quite a lot to it, but still.
I really hope we'll have Rupert August on again within the next couple of weeks or so. But and obviously I'll ask him about that then. But I was just going to say, talking about the Arthurian legend, and I also see a comment in the chat about Tolkien. We're going to come on to that in a bit. And maybe talk a little bit about around that kind of stuff. So we will get there. So overall, you thought it was well worth doing that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to, if people are umming and ahhing at the price, maybe people are going to get different amounts out of it. But I very much enjoyed myself. I'll definitely go again. I did like that they were talking about the possibility in the future of doing a winter event as well. I mean, to be honest, I'd go to more of them, but at the same time, I kind of like the format of it being once yearly, because you can go away, you can work on projects within the networks that you've established and everything else, and then come back a year later with hopefully something to talk about.
I could see a 6-monthly thing working. I mean, look, I'm all in favor of anything that gets real based Anglo-Celtic Brits together. All in favour of that, to be honest. So yeah, I can see that. I like the fact they called it the Witton, which is a good Anglo-Saxon name. Lumbar in the chat says Don would hate it, full of fish-head academics. I don't think that's really true. I think that, like, look, I've streamed with Don, I don't know, 3 times maybe, and he's in my Discord, and he's a good bloke. And I think him and AA, there was a misunderstanding, and it was caused deliberately by a third party, let me say. And I think you will find quite a lot of people who like Don and AA would agree with that. But there we go.
I mean, I think the American one's probably a bit more grounded in a sense of the sort of people that go.
I'm not even sure that's true. I'm not even sure that's true. The Americans were all moaning. I noticed on the Woman's Hour thing that Poe the Person put out, and I was pleased to see Poe the Person was actually wearing a dress this time. Given she's a mother and a married lady, she in the chat on that, a lot of the Americans were saying that they wish they had more women at their one. So, I mean, and let's be honest, I mean, given we're not gay guys, we do like we're having women around, if they're based.
Yeah, so yeah, I enjoyed myself. I thought there was a lot of productive stuff going on there. I didn't go to the first one. I sadly missed it, but a lot of people have said that there was a real sense of purpose at this one compared to the last one.
Yeah,
but I suppose because a lot of the people there have met before, and it's starting to sort of get some legs on it.
Cool. Lumbar in the chat says, sure, but let's not demonize Sniper for that. No, that had nothing to do with Sniper. Don't be so bloody silly. Sergeant Sniper's not a bad chap. But anyway, we're going to leave all of that aside. Anything to say on that one, Mitch?
I don't really know much about AA events beyond what he's posted about it in the Discord. I mean, not on his Telegram channel. But yeah, I don't really know much about it, so I can't really comment. I mean, I don't know what I feel. I feel like I have to spurg about the fact that I don't actually know what because you got the forward Witton Ayamut, which actually means like which actually basically means Witton comes from like where you get the word wise and wisdom from.
Yeah.
Then you got yamot, which yamot it means like past tense of meeting. So pretty much it's a long word that basically means meeting of the wise or meeting of those who know in Old English.
Yeah, it was like back in the day when like Alfred the Great was King of Wessex, and had this dream of an England. When the Danes and the great Danish army and all the rest of it were invading, he would get together his Witton, which was the best and wisest men in the land, and they would all decide what they were going to do. Is that all right, Mitch?
I mean, I won't be surprised if it was like for regular decisions, but from my understanding so far, it's essentially every time there was a king who died, the Witton would choose who becomes the next king. Like it wouldn't just be like primogeniture, oldest son, or one of the sons inherits automatically. It'd be the council decides who inherits the throne after the king dies. So, for example, when Alfred the Great's brother Aethelred died, they didn't give it the throne automatically to his oldest son Aethelwald. They gave it to his brother, who we know as Alfred the Great. That's what the Witton chose because, of course, the Vikings had just invaded. We couldn't afford a child at the throne of Wessex at the time, so we had to choose Alfred. And the rest, as you say, is
good choice. Yes, because although Alfred defeated the Danes several times, almost the only person who ever did. He also, like his son, and his son did actually create England.
Yeah, it was. There's some debate over who actually created what the idea of England, because you got Alfred the Great's grandfather Egbert, who he was in charge of Wessex and wrecked the Mercians and East Anglians and Northumbrians and unified England for all of like 2 years before everyone rebelled after he died. Then there was Alfred the Great himself. He didn't actually unify England, but he set the idea. So when his son Edward the Elder and his daughter Ethelfled, Lady of the Mercians, and Alfred's grandson, what's his name now?
Athel something.
I don't know if it's Aethelred who unified England in the year 937 at the Battle of Brunanburh. Because I
think you're right, mate. I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually got a book about the Anglo-Saxons, which I read like a few months ago, so I really should know this off by heart.
Well, the Anglo-Saxons, let's be honest, were the only dudes in the whole of Northwest Europe who were able to stand up to the Vikings. And that, like Ireland, for example, Dublin started off as a Norse slaving place. That's how it started.
Yeah, you take Russia, for example. They only defeated the Vikings by assimilating them. They didn't actually beat them in combat. Like
the Kievan Rus, is that right?
Kievan.
Kievan Rus. Yeah.
You can say Kievan, but that's the Ukrainian way, and it just doesn't sound that great phonetically. Whereas I always say Kievan. Cool. But then you got Normandy, which I think everyone knows how Normandy started out with Rollo and Islam.
Yeah.
Who else? I know the Muslim world suffered a lot with the Vikings. They traded with the Vikings via the Volga River with the Kievan Rus, but from like the Western Mediterranean, Vikings like Buren, Ironside, and rest of them used to raid the Muslims a lot. In fact, the Christians in Spain would actually pay the Vikings to raid the Muslim coastline, if I remember correctly.
Because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I used to be like a massive World War II guy, but then I just thought, okay, I really need to diversify my sense of history. So now I'm just a massive Dark Ages spurg.
Yeah, fair enough. Alman, anything to add to that one?
No. George said in chat, avoid worshipping YouTubers who appear. Blah blah blah.
Yes,
this was actually
I like this one.
Yeah, this was actually one of the things that I was really glad to see when I went up there. Someone actually just said, I think today or yesterday, with a little bit of e-drama, they said, "Oh, there's a lot of sycophants in AA's community," which is true, and that has been an issue for a while. I've noticed.
Yes, absolutely true.
I saw none of that at this event, which was really good. In fact, there was actually quite a lot of people that had their own little differences with various speakers or YouTube personalities and all sorts. And yeah, it was a really good little crowd they got going on. I say little; it's like 120 or 150 people or something like that. But
that's not bad. No, yeah, that's not bad at all. What percentage were women? Would you say?
Single digit. I don't know exactly how many, but it wasn't many.
Okay, well, all the Americans were saying it was more than the Yanks got. So
I think it was literally I think there was like 6 women there.
Okay. Well, at least 1 or 2 of them were reasonably attractive. So
yeah. Nathan Hood was there. He was a speaker as well. His talk was good.
Oh, cool! I like Nathan Hood.
He's we spoke quite a lot over the 2.5 days.
Nathan's the dude who does, for anyone in the chat, he does stuff with Apostolic Majesty.
I think he's on with Apostolic Majesty now.
Yeah, he might be actually.
Not that people should go and watch it. They can obviously stay here and go afterwards.
Go and watch it after this stream. Absolutely. I will actually put it in our, because Apostolic Majesty and Nathan Hood are both on our Discord, and I will put it in our Shilling channel on our Discord after the stream is finished. But
George, Nathan Hood was also a lovely bloke, and his talk was good too. He
seems a nice chap, I must admit. George says, "Where do women at Iron Duke?" Yeah, all right, man. Just because you can't find any, doesn't mean anything really. And I'm joking, by the way, George. You know I am. But anyway. I kind of like women in their place. I do. I like women, but they're decorative and entertaining sometimes. But I don't take a great deal of notice of their political ideas, shall we say? Because one shouldn't. It's just not what they're into. A good chick will adopt her bloke's ideas so long as she admires him and looks up to him. Hang on, what are we getting here? I really, mate, if there were 150 people there and less than 10 women, that would definitely not be a good plan, if you ask me. But that's just me, I mean. Other people may have other ideas. Whatever. All right. Okay. Mitch, you got anything to add?
Can't say, but I do.
All right. I got a couple of things I want to talk about, I guess. The first one is I'm going to say the vile words Amazon and Lord of the Rings.
Oh no, we're not talking about this, are we?
Yeah, no, we have to, mate. We
don't. Ignore it. It doesn't exist.
Yeah,
I'm not listening.
All right, that's basically what I'm going to do, but I want to point this out to people. All right.
Should we just call it abomination?
Yeah, the abomination that is Amazon's, in inverted commas, Lord of the Rings. The rings are power.
No, don't say the name. Just let's just call it the abomination and leave it at that.
Yeah, all right. Do not watch this show. Don't even hate watch it, because all you're doing is giving them views. Don't watch it. Every single thing that Tolkien, who was a fine English gentleman, who was a former British soldier, who was a professor of Anglo-Saxon, who was steeped in British and Scandinavian and German folklore and history and myth, everything he wrote in Lord of the Rings is being subverted in that show. Do not watch it. Tolkien even said he wrote it specifically as myth and high fantasy for England and Britain. Not for the whole world, just for England and Britain.
Yeah, I found it blackpilling lately when So there's a great grandson of Tolkien himself by the name of Roy Tolkien, because I've met the guy like years ago when he was shilling The Hobbit years ago, and I find him on Instagram shilling this abomination. I find that quite blackpilling.
Well, his grandfather would be ashamed of him. I'm quite convinced of that.
I can understand him shilling The Hobbit because he's credited as being in the movie, even though he's just an extra, really.
No, I mean for shilling this Amazon abortion.
Yeah, I really don't. I mean, you have which Tolkien's was it? Christopher, who didn't like the films, if I'm not mistaken.
That was Tolkien's son, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, Christopher didn't like the films. I mean, so I'm surprised there's even a Tolkien who's actually investing any time into this abomination. I mean,
Mitch, it's like the Tolkien Society has been totally taken over by lefty feminist LGBTQ scum, basically.
Yeah,
it's been totally taken over by that. So you can't take any notice of the Tolkien Society. And Tolkien was a Roman Catholic Christian gentleman and a British soldier, and like everything these people are pushing is absolute nonsense. And in the Amazon bullshit, Guy Ladriel, and everyone should call her Guy Ladriel because that's what she is like this warrior girl, which Tolkien never did because Tolkien was a historian, and like women weren't warriors back then, because back in the day when you had to fight with swords hand to hand, women were even worse warriors then than they are today, and they're pretty shit today, to be honest with you. But they were totally shit then. Like women just could not be warriors in a hand-to-hand combat environment. They would just die because men are so much bigger and stronger.
I mean, I mean, even when Tolkien has sort of like a female action hero, he still puts in sort of like a more traditional ending for them. He doesn't have them become ultra feminist. He'll just have them get married after their duty's done. Like,
yeah, but even when he does that, Mitch, like, all right, she can ride horses really well because women can ride horses really well. There's no problem with that. But then they use magic.
Yeah, Galadriel's talents aren't with a sword; it's more with a magic. I mean, she destroyed the fortress of a Dol Guldur by herself without use of a sword or anything. So why?
Yeah,
like it just rather feels dumbed down, to my opinion. But they have to put Galadriel in a suit of armor with a sword to sell the idea of woman power.
A really plastic-looking suit of armor, which was not anything that anyone would have had in the Second Age, is it? I think.
It's Second Age, yeah.
So it's kind of like Dark Ages in real history terms, and there's no way anyone would have that kind of plastic-looking armor back then. But whatever. But yeah, it's shit. Do not hate watch it, gents. If you really insist on hate watching it, like haul up the Skull and Crossbones and find it that way. Not even
that way.
Well, all right. Don't give Amazon any money, guys. You work hard for your money, and this is a yet another Hollywood production which is totally anti-white and totally anti-straight white male. Don't give them your hard-earned money. Do not do that.
I mean, the thing is that like often these studios will actually count piracy as an authentic view, right? They'll see they take it as interest.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, look, I'm not going to watch it at all because, like, I would vomit if I did watch it. Because, like, I've watched enough reviews of people who I like, who have pointed out what shite it is and how it's got nothing whatsoever to do with the late great Tolkien's reign. So I'm just not going to watch it. I'm no way. But like, do not watch it on Amazon for God's sake. Like,
Yeah.
we as Paul Gottfried, who is a man I very much admire and like, has said, the right really must start boycotting shit like this and just not watch it and say why we're not watching it, because it is anti-white and it is anti-straight white male and it is anti everything the author ever stood for.
I mean, the reason, the thing with the boycotting it, I mean, I think this needs pointing out. I've seen people say that, well, you're not going to be able to. We don't have the buying power to be able to effectively boycott. No, we don't. But it doesn't matter, because it's not about effectively being able to shut it down financially. They largely make this stuff because they know it gets a rise out of people on the fringes, and they use that. And you just have to deny them that rise,
I'm going to disagree with you a bit, Adamant, on this. We do have the numbers. If you go on if you go on Rotten Tomatoes, right, which we know over several very, how shall we put it, lefty, liberal, feminist, LGBTQ shows, has been caught removing many viewers' reviews who hated it. They've been caught doing this for several years now. But if you go on there today, this crap, what's it called? Rings of Power. It's
Abomination.
The Abomination. It's on about 33% from viewers.
37.
All right. Last time I looked, it was 33.
Yeah,
but it goes up and down, and we have that. And so many Tolkien fans really detest this show that actually I think on this occasion we might even win. I'm living here hoping this is going to be one of the greatest disasters in television history.
Right, but we'll win because it's genuinely bad. Like, I mean, you say 37% on, well, you say 30ish% on Rotten Tomatoes, moving up and down. It's got 13,000 user ratings. Right, 6 of those are me. I'm just going to tell you straight up. So, the thing is that half of those are going to be people that were never going to watch it anyway, even if it was good. Just because they're people like us that don't watch TV anymore. But there are lots of normies that were hoping this was actually going to be good and wanted to go and watch it and enjoy it.
And it's not, because look, one of them is me, by the way. I did one. And I almost never do that. And I haven't watched it. I just went on the reviews I've watched. But it's slow. The acting is wooden at best.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the reviews. We all have.
Yeah.
But the thing is that
it's just crap. Don't watch it. And even Amazon themselves, who originally called it an adaptation of Tolkien, have now retreated to based upon. And I think Amazon are quite worried about this.
They may well be, but you're going to find that if you went out and talked to more normies, you'd be shocked at how many are still willing to give it a watch. They might not, because of the amount of genuine reviews by genuine outlets saying how bad it is. But
did you see the Daily Mail one, Adam?
Here's one for you. If it genuinely had a well-written story, but it still had all the bad tropes and everything else that we're seeing, right? It was still an abomination of Tolkien, but it was a watchable high fantasy show. We would still not be watching it, but it would succeed.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't think it's that either.
No,
I think it's an unwatchable show on all levels. Because the people but how could you be Jeff Bezos, all right? Like one of the richest men in the world, as far as I understand. And look at the two twats he got to run this show. It's just beyond me how you.
I don't think we should be focusing on that stuff.
All right, to me, it's beyond me how he wouldn't get two of the best dudes in the world to run his.
Even if it looked like it was going to be a financial success, but it was still paused, I'd still be telling people no hate watching. Not be and you know.
No, me too. You like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm well aware of the anti-white agenda and particularly the anti-straight white male agenda. I'm well aware of those things, and you know I am. But I just don't understand that someone like Bezos employs such twats to run his show.
Yeah, sure. But I'm saying I'm not just laying out something specifically for this show. I'm talking about how we should react to symbols of cultural destruction such as this. And that is, we haven't got the buying power to make something succeed or fail necessarily, but we should be stepping over it anyway.
We might have, combined with some of our allies who are like, no, hang on, wait a minute, mate. You can disagree, obviously, but my opinion is maybe us guys as like traditional Brits and the people who really just like Tolkien, because Tolkien is probably the greatest fantasy high fantasy myth writer ever. I mean, like he makes the dude who wrote Game of Thrones look like a twat, because he is. But between us, we actually might win this one. I reckon, maybe. If we all stick together, we might win this one. But I'm a big tent guy, you know I am.
And I'm saying it doesn't matter if we don't. We still need to step over it.
Yeah, no, look, I totally agree with you. I've seen AM do this on his channel, Apostolic Majesty. So he doesn't want to talk about it. Great. That's one way to do it. But on the other hand, that ain't going to work with normies.
No, it's not going to work for normies. So we do it. Right. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Like, they create this stuff. Literally part of their marketing strategy is getting off on the outrage that they get from us over destroying our heritage.
So what would be your advice then? What would be your advice then?
You deny them their outrage.
What? So you just ignore it?
Yeah, you pretend the thing doesn't exist because, as far as we're concerned, it shouldn't do, and that's the end of it. And maybe when the dust is settled, I mean, I think it was Jord who said we should be like taking characters from the show and memeing it like we have with previous things. Maybe when the dust has settled, you should do that. But for now, no. Radio silence. You don't give them the benefit of your anger.
All right, I'm no fan of Jord. Like, I would not have Jord on my Discord, for example.
With Jord. Whoa! Hang on, this is a bigger issue now.
No, I don't like Jord at all, man. I've got to say, he's far too tied into Indian, whatever his name was, who George used to be involved with. And,
I'll be honest, I've stepped over Ralph as well. He doesn't exist on my radar.
Yeah, okay. See, I can step over Ralph because Ralph is like, just some guy who worked for multiple multinational banking organizations, shall we say. I can step over him. I can't step over a show that everyone is going to try and plug, especially all the left and liberals.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I just don't go onto normative parts of the internet generally. And everyone at work, everyone in my social circles, everyone at work, everyone in my family, they've learned the hard way not to bring that sharp around me. And now they just don't talk about it to me. And I'm living in bliss.
Absolutely good, Armin, and I agree totally. And that's what I do with people I know myself. But like when we do these streams, we're talking to people who don't necessarily know who we are. So, I just think, look, this Amazon show is totally at its fundamental root. It's anti-white and it's anti-white straight male particularly. And that's why we need to point out what it is. I'm sorry. I just think we have to. I mean, all right, yeah, you can argue that 90% of TV and TV adverts and Hollywood films these days are that, and I would totally agree. They are. But this particular one, because it is Tolkien is peculiarly English and British in some respects, and for that, no, I'm not going to ignore it. I'm just going to say, look, don't fucking watch it, please, because you're just like you're shooting yourself, not so much in the foot as in the arse. Just don't watch it.
Mm.
That's my own opinion, but you may have slightly different one. Mitch, anything to say on that one?
Well, I mean, I can agree on like memeing the characters, especially like the black elves, supposedly, even though the word elf actually means white in Proto-Germanic, if I remember correctly.
Sorry, man. Carry on.
Yeah, and then you've got what else? You got the black dwarves, even though I don't even know if dwarves are meant to be black, because I mean, I suppose you'd probably be really pale because they've got no sunlight. Perhaps I don't think. Perhaps they'll be darkened because you got to think they mine a lot, so they've probably got dirt on their faces. That's the furthest dark you could get for them.
But someone who spent most of the time underground would not be black.
No, it's like my granddad was. I mean, yeah, you take my granddad, he was like half Welsh. He's swarthy, but he's not black, despite how much time he spent mining coal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. People say this. They talk about black Welshmen and stuff, but they're really talking about like dark-haired Welshmen and so on.
Yeah, I mean, my granddad was somewhat swarthy. I mean, he could be mistaken for a Spaniard at times. I mean, you got my father, who's also could be mistaken as a Spaniard at times. But then you got me, who I'm just... I mean, I'm pale enough that I can get mistaken for a Northern Russian or Northern German, apparently.
Well, I could be mistaken for a Spaniard at times. Like, I tan a quite dark brown, and I've spent a lot of my life in like sunny areas. But my son, because when I was a young boy, I had a red sheen to my hair, as did my brother, who's actually got dirty blonde hair these days, although when he was born, he had white blonde hair. But we had like this red tinge to it because it came from our family. And my son is, he used to be a complete redhead, and these days it's like a reddy brown because he's in his mid-20s. But, we're Anglo-Celtic people. And that's what they look like,
Yeah. So you say, I mean, I gotta make sure I don't dox myself, but like when it comes to my family, genetics can be weird. I got, for example, a cousin who is so dark skinned, he could actually, you'd think he was like mixed race at least, or black, but he's actually 100% Anglo, or like 100% pan-British Charles in general.
Yeah.
But then you got his sister, who is as pale as a goth girl, like, so it's kind of weird. When I got I'm quite like pale, and but then you got my brother, who, when you look at him, you would think he was an Arab in terms of him being swarthy and having like a dark beard. But then you got me, so I've got pale skin, dark hair, and high cheekbones to a point where I can actually be mistaken for Northern Russian.
Yeah, it's look, I like that thing, the map you put up in the Discord, which showed British diversity, which basically took in the British Isles, including Ireland, and a bit of Norway, and a bit of Belgium and Holland, and that was kind of it, really. It's like, and a little bit of Germany, I suppose. But that's kind of like, that's the diversity of Britain. Is very Northern European, all very closely related people, and that's where it is.
Yeah,
like I have a Spanish great grandmother who I reckon helps me tan, but she was still a European, for God's sake. It's like, I don't know. I just really hate this shit that is like anti-white and especially anti-straight white male racism. Although we shouldn't call it that, I guess, because racism is what the other guys accuse all white European descent people of being, and we're not. We're not. I wish we were a bit more actually, but we're not on the whole. There is a constant drip, drip, drip in school and university and college and all the rest of it. It's more than that. But even as an adult, in every single almost every single TV show, TV advert, Hollywood movie, there is this drip, drip, drip of anti-white and especially anti-straight white male. And anyone who cannot see that now, to my mind, is an utter moron. If you can't see it now because it's so constant and so everywhere, you're a moron.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about this new French movie by the name of Athena, where the whole point of it is that there's a civil war in France where the non-whites spend their time doing a civil war against the white French people and wipe them out. And
Who wins?
The blacks, the black and tans, shall we say?
Well, I'm not sure that would really happen, but yeah, that sounds par for the course.
I mean, it's a film. The whole point of the film is to demoralize the French. So, and I don't know why the French seem to like. It's bad enough over in terms of the films we get for Tolkien and whatnot, but then you get France where they actually have films that represent. Who was it? Wrote Camp of the Saints. That literally have films replicate that, and it's even more extreme. Yeah, when you get Germany, then you got Germany where they've got adverts where it's like. When it comes to Christmas time and you get the German women, they're trying to get meals. One Christmas, they're flirting with the Japanese. Next, they're flirting with the Turks. Next, they're flirting with the Arabs, and so on. And they're talking about, well, the Arab or like, just non-white men in general and the non-white cuisines as lecker, which means it's a German word for tasty or delicious. So it's just really insidious.
In Afrikaans, lekker means good. But
yeah, because lecker. I mean, in terms of German, lecker means like delicious or tasty. But I know in Afrikaans,
it means good. You'd say, that's lekker, man. That's good. You know?
Yeah, I only know of that because of that Long Way to Muckenborg, a song of Shield.
But you know a million times more about lingo than I do, so I'm not even going to engage you in that conversation. Adam, your thoughts on what we're talking about at the moment?
I haven't got much thoughts actually on that.
Do you not think that there is a constant propaganda thing going on our mainstream media, like against our real people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just hilarious. I mean, with these sorts of films, I mean, there will obviously, I mean, people get quite black pilled because there'll be a disgusting amount of people that go along with this stuff. But there'll be a lot of, especially younger people, that will, especially with the nihilism that affects the younger generations. They kind of in some ways end up, like certain amounts of them end up seeing through this stuff. It's not a lot, but it's enough. Not that we need like tons of people anyway, but this was actually something that Curtis Yarvin brought up at the Witton in his talk. During the Q&A section afterwards, someone said about him sending his child to Berkeley. And they said, how would you inoculate your children against that stuff in the school? Or, you know, that allows you to feel safe sending them to somewhere like Berkeley. And he just said, you don't really have to do anything in most cases, as long as they're getting like a normal sort of life outside of school. When they go in there, you know, this stuff actually just kind of makes them laugh at it. And he told a thing about a child. I'm not sure if it was in that class or in the school generally. He said they got them in a big circle where they were getting them to talk about their racism. And one of them said they'd been banned from Roblox for making fun of the LGBT people, and all the kids laughed.
Yeah, that's like insane. I mean, like, why do kids need to learn about sex? I don't know, 7, 8, 9. I don't understand what they do. I've never understood why they do. And like I won't even say like LGBTQ and all this other insane nonsense, which is really about mentally ill people more than anything else. But like just sex, kids of 7, 8, and 9 don't need to be taught about that. That's not something they do, or it certainly shouldn't be anyway, shall we say? Although what we're increasingly seeing, of course, is that many of the people who have been pushing this crap for donkey's years are now moving on to pedophiles should be treated as, what is it, younger attracted people, or some bullshit name that they're giving it. You know, basically where, you know, like some pervert scumbag can do something to some poor little child, innocent child. And they're not pushing that. They're just pushing it now, already openly. And you can see that give it 4 or 5 years, that's going to be mainstream in the same way that LGBTQ is now. I mean, unless somehow we can stop it, but I don't know how, to be honest. Yeah. I don't know how we stop it, because like LGBTQ to me is like vile. It's mentally ill people that we're trying to pretend are like normal, which they're not. So when you get these pedophiles, as we now have, saying, "Oh no, you can't call them pedophiles anymore. You've got to call them younger attractive people," or whatever stupid fucking con name they're trying to give them. And many of them are very fat women, I noticed, by the way. You know, women who, like, basically, like, I can't imagine any bloke would ever do anything with them. But, you know, many of them are that. Although I've got nothing against fat women. I mean, you know, except, like, I'm never going to have sex with one. But, I mean, apart from that, you've got these people now turning and saying, "Oh no, younger attractive people." It's just bullshit. It's younger attractive people are pedophiles who want to do nasty things to your little children. I presume both of you chaps would agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, I expected enthusiastic agreement with that, but I don't know.
I mean, I'm just focusing on the chat where so gaming kids slur each other. Yeah, that's true. I mean, especially Modern Warfare 2 lobbies back in the day, they were very. How many times we used the N-word back in those days? I can't imagine how the moral orthodoxy today would cope with it.
I don't know what that's got to do with anything, because that's kids doing stuff to other kids. So, yeah. or I mean, I don't know how many of those people were really kids, even in a gaming thing. You know, to me, like natural humans, it doesn't matter if you're a male or a woman, a male or a female. You want to protect children because that's kind of a natural human thing. It's not even racial. It's just like all humans generally would prefer to protect children. But these people don't.
I mean, the people you're talking about here are literally people who would sacrifice their children to Moloch if they could. So
yeah.
I just but there's not really anything to say about those sort of people other than you just wish that they'll suffer in due course. That's all I'm going to say.
Totally agree. Adam, anything to add to that one?
No.
Doxxing Draco. Mitch, apparently a diversity hired people, short women, have trouble controlling crowds of drunk men. Who'd have thought? Yeah, I mean, totally true. Totally true. Mark Collet Spaghetti. So he's free, SJJ. Mate, he's free. Honestly, he's been free since like a stream a couple of weeks ago when I banned him for being annoying.
Is this the guy when you posted the video in Discord earlier?
Yeah.
Is that the same guy?
Yeah.
Ban him again.
No. Yeah.
We won't have any of those quars in our chat.
No, mate. This dude, listen. He's got a lovely schnauzer little terrier type dog.
Free the dog and then ban him again. That's what I say.
Yeah, the dog is cool, but what he does is, because he's trying not to film his face, he sometimes films up his short shorts, which he really needs to avoid. And he thought that was me calling him gay. I wasn't calling him gay. I was just saying he like really makes some shots which are not all that great. But
you should have called him gay. That would have sorted this whole thing out.
Nah, man, I try not to call anyone gay, unless I think they are, of course. And look, my one problem with the Witton would have been Evelyn. Look, I can't deal with that kind of stuff. I don't know what your views on that are.
Oh well, yeah, actually, I forgot about that one. Yeah, his talk was it was controversial. I didn't dislike it actually. It was quite interesting.
I wouldn't have even gone, but okay.
Well, I was thinking about walking out, but I just ended up. I was talking to someone, and then the talk was starting anyway, so I just stayed. Yeah, it was okay.
I see. I have a problem with that because you can't be trad, you can't be you can't be anything on the right if you support that. As far as I'm concerned, you can't. I'm sorry, you just can't. I don't.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you're free in SJJ, so I don't know.
I didn't free
back into our chat.
No, I didn't free him. I just I banned him for one chat, which I do quite often. There's only 2 people permanently banned on the stream, I think. Yeah, I go look if he comes back and he annoys me again, I'll ban him again. I mean, I don't care. But I'm not gonna have transvestites on my streams. I'm just not, because it's not traditional, and these people are mentally ill. I don't understand how this is all right in the right wing. I don't get it. It makes it confused to me.
Yeah, it's I think that person gets a lot more influence off of the back of AA than they possibly deserve. I don't want to be too well. I don't actually care about being that harsh, but I don't think their content in relation to how they interact with AA is often as good as AA is making out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It they are hosting their own events though, so there is that. Yeah, if people like that sort of thing, they can go up to that, I suppose. I know Harrion does.
Oh yeah, I know Harrion. Yeah. I see. I wouldn't do that, but
Harrion
but
would.
Well, yeah, Harrion would, but Harrion has a girlfriend who rides horses with a riding crop that he is far too fond of. But yeah, women women go quite well with riding crops, but not when they're holding them. Is my own opinion. But that may be controversial. But that may be controversial. But anyway.
It's not controversial. It's just lewd.
Lewd and controversial, but really also realistic, to be honest. But given 2,000 years of human history, but whatever. Yeah, I think we've probably got somewhere this evening anyway. On the whole, the Witton sounded pretty good. With the reservations I have mentioned. Marco Spaghetti has come up with one of his normal kind of statements.
On that, actually, did you want to talk about this Ayatollah chap getting doxxed by the Times?
Oh yeah, go on. We'll carry
on. Well, I don't know how much you guys know about it, but I don't know much myself. I don't know how many people actually remember this guy Ayatollah. He was part of.
I've met him IRL. So
part of Patriotic Alternative. Yeah.
Well, that's debatable. What's he like in real life? Is he all right?
Yes, he is quite funny, and he's quite a good chap in IRL. I mean, you can disagree with him when he talks about certain events in the 1940s. Because he does talk about it in a way that, it'll be sort of, should we say, very revisionist about that, which you can find disagreeable. But in a personal way, he was quite a good chap. Him and his half Indian girlfriend, I quite liked him.
Yeah. So he used to be on that podcast, The Absolute State of Britain, with various other people that are kind of dicks. Let's be honest. And he kind of went his own way. I think he had a stream called Sunday Night Roast or something like that.
Friday Night Dinner.
Friday Night Dinner, that was it. And he got guests on. I think he said that he had 120. His viewership was usually 120 average. So he's like it's a fairly small channel, a bit bigger than ours, but sort of in this end.
For now.
Yeah, and he. So the Times did a hit piece on him, basically. A Times journalist who I think previously also spoke with Mark and Laura Towler and has basically been gunning for PA and people in that circle for a while. He did a hit piece on him and doxed him. And
gents, sorry to interrupt you, Alan. I have to go to my door for a couple of minutes. Please carry on speaking.
Right. Yeah, so he doxed him. I'm not really sure what he's going to do from here or how this is going to play out for him. I don't know how it's going to affect him in the real world, but
I remember when I met him, he was very very vigilant on making sure he never got doxed. So, for example, I knew, for example, that he's the way he speaks. He's not the actual natural way he speaks. He changes accent to make sure he masks his origins and whatnot. Right. And so, for example, I thought he was a Londoner, and then when I actually first met him, I actually thought he was Lebanese because he did that.
I think I heard about this. Other people saying that as well.
Yeah, because I think it was Nazbol Phil or someone else who tried to say that the Ayatollah was actually Lebanese or something. So he did try to indulge it for a day. And back then I was still in PA at that time, and I was still regularly communicating with him and whatnot. And I actually believed it at the time because I thought he had that name Toller, particularly because he actually was Middle Eastern, and now he's actually he seems to me 100% British or somewhat of from what impression I got of him anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's still with that half Indian girlfriend. I hope she's supporting him. If so, because
I take it when you met him, was talking to him, he's still has a normal life. He's not just a full time. He can't be a full time YouTuber with 120.
No, I mean, he would never like tell people about his job, but I think it's something like it's a very normie job, like the kind of job which I won't be. And given like amount of I don't know if you say paranoid about being doxxed or whatever, but I'm guessing it's the kind of job where his employer probably has the internet at ready deployment. Like I won't be surprised if there's like an office job or something where the guy in charge can easily look on the internet as to his name or whatever.
Yeah, but it doesn't often happen though. So
it's not just that. I mean, it's beyond the paywall, isn't it? So I'm thinking I don't know how effective that article will be because it's beyond a bloody paywall, which is, and it's not just that. I mean, I mean, as I said, like I don't think no one. I think only his girlfriend will know where he actually lives, but no other nationalist knows even what ballpark he lives in. So I don't know how the shitlibs are going to find out where he lives because he was only vigilant about
guys, I just got given 2 eggs from my neighbor old lady's new chickens, which I didn't even know she had. Who the hell gives you eggs at 7:40 a.m. on a Sunday morning? I have no idea.
A base individual, that's who.
Yeah, my neighbor lady who's like elderly and very deaf. But anyway, what do we think about him having a half Pakistani girlfriend? Because I don't really care, to be honest.
I think she was half Punjabi, so.
Oh, okay. So like Sikh or something like that.
Yeah, I've actually met her father, and I can't remember. I mean, I've only met him once. I didn't really talk to him, but
yeah, I don't really care like what a particular ethnic thing is, but like, well, what do we think about people who have girlfriends who are half ethnic or whatever? See, I don't really care, but then I'm not a full-on white nationalist at all. I'm an Anglo-Celtic nationalist.
Panama Hat's brown. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, I knew he was. Yeah, I knew that. He's somewhat African, isn't he?
Well, he's half something, but the thing is, like, I bought because Bournebrook magazine, which is a good magazine, people should check out. They recently recently opened a Bournebrook press, and I think the first book they published is a thin little book of like an anthology of poems. Some of them are written by Columba, actually. You know that guy, the young guy.
Yeah.
They're really good, actually. I'll give him credit. And I'm miles out of Stephen's weight class, so he doesn't want to do that. And there's one by Panama Hat as well. And you wouldn't read that and think that was from anything other than a full-blooded Englishman. So, like, there's an aspect to which you shouldn't be endorsing, like doing the typical American conservative thing of like praising the based black man. That's fucking cringe. But if a few people that are maybe a little more suave than normal, or the odd person with a mixed race GF or whatever wants to sort of get into the movement, and they're actually willing to sort of pay for it, with actual effort, it's hardly something I think we should be sort of driving people out over.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Look, like I said, I'm not a white nationalist. I'm an Anglo-Celtic nationalist. And if people have some degree of that in them, then and they're based, then yeah, fair enough. I'm not gonna. I mean, I remember being very badly slagged off by some people because I said some Japanese girls are cute, and some Japanese girls are very cute. I'm sorry, they just are. I'm not interested in you guys telling lies, but I didn't say African girls were cute, although I dare say there are some. Although I haven't met many. I have to say that I lived there for 20 years, but anyway, but whatever. So yeah, I'm not totally like everyone is evil who is not totally white Anglo-Celtic, because that's not true. But I prefer most of us to be Anglo-Celtic, shall we say?
Well, naturally, most of us are going to be. So I think as long as you're not encouraging You know, as long as you're not falling into this leftist narrative of encouraging these people in because you think it's going to make you look less racist or something, it's
I
it's
totally agree.
you're going to end up with a movement that's like 99.9% white anyway. So
Yeah, absolutely correct.
George says never engage with journos. Yeah, absolutely, they're the enemy.
I agree. I agree totally, Alan and George. Quite right. Marco Calais Spaghetti says Iron Duke was Navy boxing champion 2 weeks running. I never served in the Navy, Marco Calais Spaghetti. That's my son. And whilst I did do a little bit of boxing in the army, my dad was the boxing dude, and he won the lightweight championship of the Suez Canal Zone in the early 1950s. And my brother has his medal. So there we go. I think he beat a dude from the parachute regiment in the final. So there you go. But no, I never did any boxing in the Navy, and I didn't do a lot of boxing in the Army. I did a little bit, but not much. So there we go. All right. How long have we been going?
But I mean, one of the things I will say, just quickly before we move on to something else, I do think it's been quite good to see lots of different people get behind Ayatollah over this whole thing. Like, he's not someone. I mean, I've never even watched any of his content before. I'm pretty sure, like as Mitch was saying earlier, I'm pretty sure there's probably a few things that he says about various time periods and other such things which I probably find dumb or maybe even cringe. But he's still closer to being one of us, and they're attacking him in the same way that they would attack us. And
when it comes to his streams, when it comes to his streams, he's mainly like more of a light-hearted guy. He's not exactly a guy who just like fair enough. If you asked him about the JQ, he could go to 10 on that. But for the most part, it seems to me like he just try and be light-hearted, like try and cool off from the way the world is, and do Alan Partridge impressions and whatnot because he's very good with his voice. I'll give him that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that most of his stream was just like comedy. It was just like culture analysis and satire and impressions.
In general terms, I don't punch right these days. If someone's on the right, I'll try and ignore them if they do stuff I really don't like. And some of them do, of course. But I'm over like making streams that are attacking somebody else on the right. I don't do that anymore. I still don't like the likes of Mark Collette, partly because I'm still fairly convinced that Mark Collette's a British government asset. But I mean, just me. That's what I think. That's why he doesn't get sent to prison. But I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but I could be. But yeah, I'm not into punching right anymore. I'm not into it. There are people who I don't like on the right, and if someone really pushes it to me, I will at some stage. Well, I don't like them because of X, Y, or Z. But generally speaking, I try not to do it. Like, there's just so much anti-white propaganda from the time a kid goes to nursery school to the time they leave university. Every single TV show, almost every single Hollywood movie, many TV adverts, etc. It's just like you can't do it anymore. You've got to stop punching right. You just have to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's a distinction I think people need to constantly keep in mind and think of, which is that there is a difference between policing your own side, making sure that people that aren't, that are falling behind are sort of encouraged to keep up, to improve their image or improve whatever it is.
Sure.
And not jeopardize the people around them. But then there's also just punch him right, which is just something you should obviously never do.
Yeah, totally agree, Alan. Yeah, that's pretty much my view. Like I said, I'm like, if someone's an LGBTQ transvestite and people on the right are saying, "Oh, this is a right-wing person," I'm going to be very, very, very dubious of that, because I don't see how that works. But if someone like has slightly different political views to me, but they're still generally right-wing, I don't give a shit, really. Look, I'm a big tent guy. I think we have to have everybody who is genuinely right of centre on the same side, because we'll never get anywhere unless we can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's my view. Mitch, you got anything to add to that one, mate?
I mean, on the topic of like, what was the question? Something like, like what do we think about Toller's girlfriend choice or whatever? I mean,
well, there's that, but there's just the general, like, should we punch right or should we not punch right? And I don't think we should, but you may
it depends on who you're punching against. I mean, you take Mark Collett. I mean, how many people have been doxxed thanks to his campsites are the main vector of people getting doxxed. You had Anglophobe, you've had Toller. I've heard, like, from what I've heard, he does the same site every year. Like, he doesn't change it. Like, he just does the same site in the north, and the journals have long since found out where that is. And so when he shows up there year after year, they're just waiting to take photos.
Mitch, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let me just repeat what my constant opinion of Mark Collett has been for years now. I think he's a British government asset, but that's just me. I could be wrong. But
I used to believe the whole, the point you said about his camping site. I used to think that was just stupidity, but I mean, I don't think that can be attributed to stupidity. Like, I just think I won't be surprised if it's like, I don't know. I won't be surprised if, let's say hypothetically, the British government have got dirt on him and they're just using him as a means of finding out and dishing out whoever is involved in these circles that they can dox.
So, hypothetically, because as if the British government would do such a thing,
I mean, I'm not. I'm treading thin line because I don't want to be accused of shit stirring in these circles or whatever.
I got you.
So, because I mean, I can dislike.
Right, to the same extent. I mean, like, I will disengage from, like, Mark Collett and offer some small criticism to other people on the right, but I'm not gonna smash Mark Collett in front of centrists or lefties or any part of the establishment generally.
Yeah, fair enough. I totally agree with that, Alan, and I wouldn't do that either, although I would have to, like, bite my tongue. But
well, it's the same as, like, when people will say, if you're talking to someone and you're talking to them about politics specifically, you might get into one of these parts of the conversation where they will try to get, especially if there's someone who's politically engaged, they might try to get you to distance yourself from, not Mark Collett, but they might bring up, like, the old BNP, and they'll try to put you in a box whereby they say, oh, you're one of the good ones. I'd
go, Jonathan Bowden, greatest bloke in British history for a long time. That's what I'd say.
Well, yeah, exactly. You should just say, no, like, by your distinction, I'm one of the bad ones. I'm probably one of the worst ones, and that's it.
Huge. I'm a huge Bowden fan. Bowden was great, and Eddie Butler is another great guy who was working until recently, at least, for Britain, which has now been shut down. So yeah, look, I absolutely, I agree with you totally.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like on this panel amongst stuff, so I'd probably slag off Nick Griffin a few times, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. You know, in front of anyone that I don't know is explicitly in our circles.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think you'd find, like, you know, Jonathan Bowden would have his issues with Nick Griffin for sure, and so would Eddie Butler, who I did a stream interviewing about his friend Jonathan Bowden. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. But yeah, but I mean, you know, most of the people watching the stream are going to be right at center, I guess. But I'm over, like, I'm not going to do videos saying, "Oh, patriarchal television is vile and awful." Like, I don't like Mark Collette. I must say I don't, and I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him with the little finger of my left hand.
Hasn't he lost out on quite a lot though? Like just offering a little bit of pushback. Just hasn't he had to lose quite a lot himself personally?
Well, he's never gone to jail though, has he?
No, he did almost once.
Yeah, almost, and he didn't. I see that one is one of the ones that really makes it. When you almost go to jail,
right?
There's nearly always a reason why you don't. And I could be totally wrong, but I wouldn't trust Mark Collette with the little, as far as I could throw him, with the little finger of my left hand. I think he's a British government asset of some description. I really do. That's why nothing ever happens to him.
Did he lose his bank account, or was it just Laura Towler?
I think it was Laura Towler, not him. Because
I know Laura Towler did, but didn't he lose his as well later on?
I don't know. But Laura Towler was quite popular because Laura Towler was like your average British girl, I guess, to some degree anyway, apart from who she married. But yeah.
He's a lovely guy too, though, let's be honest.
I don't know him, mate. I don't know him at all. Maybe he is, but like, wouldn't have been who I would have married if I was Laura Towler, but you know, whatever. Don't know anything about anything. But I just think it's I just think it's foolish because if you are supposedly a British nationalist like Mark Collette, and someone says to you, "What are the free books that you would save?" Now, what is Britain known for apart from like everything, like, you know, explorers and scientists and engineers and authors? And he didn't even manage to come up with one British author who he would have saved.
Well, I don't think being thick is indicative of being part of the establishment.
Yeah, fair enough, mate.
I mean,
fair enough.
You would think that if he was a Fed asset, he would probably not have doubled down on that.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, maybe he is. I don't know. I think it's a strong accusation to throw out there, but it could be true. You know.
Yeah. It's a bit like that photograph with the chick with the enormous swastika on her chest, who's like a foot taller than him. It's like.
Well, to be honest, that just seems like a typical dysfunctional relationship from the dis-right, doesn't?
Yeah. I don't know. Who would I prefer? Half girl from the Punjab or some enormously tall chick with a swastika on her chest?
Well, I mean, she is white, so.
Well, yeah. Man, honestly, chicks with loads of tats, you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
You really do. The only chick I knew with a good tat, I went out with this clinical psychologist girl once, who had her entire back was a Japanese dragon. Aussie chick, really cute, very pretty, about 5'1.5" or something like that. But a very pretty girl, and her whole back was this enormous, beautiful Chinese dragon tat. And I don't like tats on chicks, by the way, at all. I don't even have any tats myself, and I was in the fucking military. but my dad told me don't get any because his dad told him the same. But anyway, and his dad had quite a few. But anyway, this was lovely. It was beautiful, but in general terms, I don't like tats on chicks. And like this chick would only ever show if you wore a swimsuit or a bikini, basically, or a backless dress, I guess. But you know, yeah. All right, we've got 5 minutes to go because we're going to cut at 2 hours. Any final things to bring up, gents?
No, nothing from me.
No, I mean, the only point I've got is I suppose tattoos could look good on a bloke, but you're talking stuff like, I don't know, let's say you'll get a Hungarian nationalist who's got a tattoo of like Miklos Horthy, or on like a Romanian who's got a tattoo of Vlad the Impaler on his arm. That's kind of a, or I don't know, let's say you'll get a guy who lives in Scandinavia and he likes the Vikings, so he gets tattoos of Vikings, but even then that's too generic at times.
Look, I'm not saying. Look, George the IV, I think it was, the English king, got tattoos when he was in the Royal Navy because that was, you know, the thing they used to do back then. I didn't get any because my dad told me not to get any because his dad told him not to get any, and his dad had quite a few because he served in India in between the wars. But I just don't like them on chicks. I like, all right, tramp stamps, you know, this stuff they get above the small of their back. Well, okay, I guess. But women with a lot of tattoos to me is a red flag. Like, why? You know?
Yeah, I mean, you take women local to me, like you take a look at the tattoos they get, it's just like very generic stuff. Like it's not even anything remotely inspired. It's just like a rose or something. So it's just, or like you get like a few stars which they'll put on their foot, and it's just.
Well, I knew this chick. I knew this chick years ago who had a pig tattoo on her foot, but that was because she liked naval history, and sailors used to do that because pigs are very good swimmers. So sailors, like in the 18th and 19th century, used to get a pig tattooed on them because it was good luck because they could swim well. So I kind of get that, and it was a little tiny tattoo, you understand. But like women with lots of big toes, I always think that's a red flag, to be honest. Not a good plan. No, me neither. I haven't.
I wouldn't want to blemish my pure white skin.
I just didn't bother because, like, my old man said, no, don't get any. And I asked my dad, why don't you have any? And my dad said, well, my dad had quite a lot because he was, you know, he served in India in the 1930s and then in World War II of them. And my dad told me not to get any. That's my granddad, and I kind of like my granddad, so I took his advice and didn't get any. But like Mitch says, I think they're all right on blokes to a degree, depending where you get them. But like a woman with a lot of tattoos is a big red flag to me.
Well, I think this is what actually put me off getting tattoos myself, is because like there's quite a lot of old monarchs who had tattoos.
Yes. Yes.
You know, like
George IV.
Tsar Nicholas II.
George IV.
Yep. Yeah, they'd have like a cross on their arm or a sword or a snake or whatever.
Yep.
And you know, as you say, like sailors, like a lot of sailors, they used to go off to these like exotic foreign ports, and it was almost like a rite of passage. And then getting this, you know, this bit of symbolism on you was like a symbol of that. You know, of this adventure you've been on and the stuff you've seen and done. And now it's just every town's got half a dozen tattoo parlors, and everyone's got every bloke in the gym's just covered in crappy tribal tattoos. And
they're not even British ones, you know. Like, I kind of get that totally.
I can understand. Let's say, for example, you get Romanian nationalists who have tattoos like Vlad the Impaler on the arm, but then what I mean, can you even do? I don't know if you can do that in the UK because even like with like the Viking tattoos, a lot of them have just been. A lot of them are so common that they've just been too genericized for one. Genericized, if that's a word, but yeah.
Genericized. That's cool.
Yeah, they've just been made generic because they're so common that they lose their sort of niche about it. And and you got Eastern Europeans who have tattoos of like I don't know, like you'll get Serbian guys with tattoos of like Ratko Mladic or Radovan Kadzic who were like who like get convicted as war criminals, and then you get Romanians with like Vladimir Pala tattoos, or you'll get Russians who have tattoos, but with their tattoos, a lot of them are like to do with prison.
To be fair, though, if you're talking about Serbian guys and having tats of people who were convicted of war criminals, like NATO, like bombed the fuck out of Serbia, or I'm not sure any of those Serbian guys were really war criminals, to be honest with you.
I say convicted war criminals. I do think the whole Serbian
not by the way that I'm ever going to have another bloke's face on my body, but whatever.
Yeah, I think it's like. It's like with. I think. You take Telegram where I'm on. It's. A lot of the guys I fraternize with about Ukraine. A lot of them are Serbs who support Russia, and they're quite genuinely quite funny. You take what me and Richard was sending me Discord server earlier. That's milquetoast compared to what myself and the Serbs say on Telegram, for example.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I totally get that. I don't know. It's like, as I said, I like my dad said, don't get them, and his dad said, don't get them. And my grandfather and my dad were kind of like my heroes, so I listened to them as a good young man does. If he has role models to listen to, so but definitely women with a lot of tats. That's a red flag, boys. It really is. Like if she's got this tramp stamp, like small of a back, that's just a fashion item. And I wouldn't say anything about a chick who's got like a small toe somewhere, but if she's got loads, I reckon that's a big red flag. If you're looking for a trad girl, if I'm honest, if there are any trad girls left, which I'm not entirely sure about, but you know what I mean. So anyway, gents, any last thoughts or anything you would like to shill, either of you?
No, nothing from me.
Anything from you, Mitch?
No, I can't say I've got anything to shill now.
All right. Well, I've got something to shill. So I will just point out that and this is a reminder for you, by the way, on Thursday the 8th, we have part 3 of British policy 1914-1942, Winston Churchill, and the unnecessary war. So we're going to be finishing that up with Horace. I think we'll finish it up this time. Hopefully. I think we will finish it up this time. But yeah, so we got that coming up on Thursday the 8th UK time, which will be Friday the 9th, early morning, even earlier than this, Eastern Australian time. About, I don't know, 1900 GMT, I think. But anyway, that's coming up. And apart from that, I'm going to play us out with a tune. Okay, gents, that was Land of Hope and Glory on the piano, obviously. And the illustration was from the 1902 coronation of King Edward VII and Queen Alexandra, who originally came from Denmark. Like I said, we'll be back on Thursday for the stream of Horace and Atman, hopefully, on British foreign policy from the First World War up into the middle part of the Second World War, by which time Britain was totally bankrupt and nothing much more than a military colony of America. And other than that, we will be back this same time next week for Splendid Isolation 88. Go well, folks, and never lose hope.